Hello, this video is asking us to create a box and whisker plot for this set of data. Now, box and whisker plots look something like this down here in my notes, and you can see what they help us do is they figure out whether or not we have outliers. That's one of their main functions. Also, they help us figure out where each of our quartiles are, which is our 25th percents. So you can talk about the 25th percentile, the 50th percentile, or the 75th percentile. And then you have your outliers here, which is going to be anything that's going to be outside, so either lower than the lower cutoff or higher than the upper cutoff. And we see our formulas here and how to figure out what those cutoffs are. The whiskers are always going to be the last qualifying value, which is not an outlier. So if you have an outlier, the whisker goes to the next value. If you happen to not have, if you don't have an outlier, then the whisker just goes to the highest value. But one of the most common mistakes students make is that they try to put their cutoffs at the whiskers. So they change, if there is an outlier, they say the cutoff is the whisker, and that's not what happens. Don't let these vertical bars here that are red confuse you. Excuse me. So I've already got this data set up in my data list in order to speed up the video, but you would just put your data into the data list, and then we're going to go in and we're going to calculate our one variable statistics. It is possible to do this by hand, of course, if you know how to find a median or a Q1 or Q3, but our calculator is going to do all that work for us. And so right away, we know that our median is 67, our Q3 is 80, and our Q1 is 55. All right, so we have 55 is our Q1, 80 is our Q3, and 67 right there is our median. Okay, so you can put those, but now in order to figure out if you have an upper whisker or what your upper whisker is and if there is an outlier, you have to calculate the stuff here in this box. You have to calculate your IQR, because that's a part of our formula, and then that helps you calculate your upper and lower cutoffs. So the IQR, if you don't recall, that is going to be Q3 minus Q1. So you can just take your 80 and subtract 55, and you'd get 25. So that is your interquartile range. That is how wide this box is here. It is 25 units wide, which means that 50% of your data sits between 55 and 80. Now we use that to calculate our upper cutoff first, or that's how I'm going to do it. So you're going to take your Q3, which has the formula down there in yellow. So that is going to be 80. And you're going to add 1.5 times 25. So 80 plus 1.5 times 25 is equal to 117.5. Our lower cutoff, you take your Q1, which is 55, and you subtract 1.5 times 25. So 55 minus 1.5 times 25 is equal to 17.5. These are our cutoffs that tell you whether you're going to have an outlier. So I've got my data set up here in blue that's already in order. So the upper cutoff is right here, just above 117, but the lower cutoff is going to be somewhere about right there at 17.5. So you can see that cuts off our data, which tells us that we do have an outlier on the bottom side. That outlier is 8 because it is outside. As far as the upper side, there is not one, so we have boxes to enter stuff in, and so you just put DNE for our homework, where there's a box for that. That tells us that the lower whisker on the lower side is the next qualifying value, which would be 33. Right? You do not put 17.5 as your whisker. You put your last qualifying value, which is 33. Here, there is no outlier, and so your upper whisker is just going to be the greatest value, which is 117. Sometimes you could have an outlier on both sides. Sometimes you won't have any outlier, but you calculate the same thing every single time so that you can figure out what your cutoffs are. The calculator with the 5-number summary